fork is a chess tactic in which one piece attacks multiple enemy pieces at once. Here is an example in a wild position here. How many forks can you observe? So here there's actually so many forks, we'll just count them together, okay? So this is a fork because one piece attacks a multitude of pieces here, multitude of enemy pieces. Another fork here presents itself with the B pawn attacking two pieces at once, while just being one piece. This knight is making a fork on the rook and king, attacking a multiple number of pieces at once. And that's about it. Welcome to 10 levels of tactics using the fork in chess for your development in chess. Which brings us to level 1. Welcome to level 1 for ELOs 0 to 500. For the first puzzle of today, I decided to choose an opening trap. And so let's dive in. White started off with E4, to which Black responded with C5, the Sicilian defense. And so we went with the closed with C3, D6 responded to by D4, and then knight F6 here. The white pieces took on C5, and then Black made the fatal mistake, knight takes E4. In this position, try to find the fork with the white pieces. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Here, it's important to remark that the knight taking this pawn is an undefended piece. So if you can attack it while producing a fork on another important piece, you could win this knight. And so that's where you find this exposed king coming onto the board. And that's where you bring together both ideas and we find queen a4 check. And so here Black is dead to rights. They have to block some way, but all of the ways that they can block will not defend this knight. And so they can continue with knight d7, queen takes e4, and the white pieces would be up a full knight. Welcome to level 2 for ELOs 500 to 1000. In this problem, I also chose an opening trap. How original of me. So white plays e4, and then the black pieces respond with the Scandinavian defense, d5. And so the goal here is that we take and we bring the queen out, and now we attack the queen to win tempo and develop our pieces at once. The queen goes to a5 here, d4, e5 played, which is unnatural, d takes, and then bishop b4 played to attack this knight twice. The white pieces responded with bishop d2, and after knight c6, the white pieces decided to kick this bishop with a3. Now, the black pieces kind of make a weird move here, that is knight d4. And so this knight kind of leaves the square even though this bishop is attacked, and the white pieces jump at this opportunity and play a takes b4 directly. In this position, it is black to play and gain an advantage. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause. So here it's important to note that our queen is attacked twice as the black pieces, and you must do something about it. Now, queen takes e5 check is not enough here since we just lost the bishop. And so intending that the black pieces saw a tactic further than a takes b4, there is a tactic here for black. And so here it is. Queen takes a1. Attracting the queen on d1 to the a1 square and deflecting it off of the defense of the c2 pawn. And after queen takes a1, the king and queen are sufficiently undefended and weakened so that we can come in with knight takes c2, royal fork.
Oh my days, that is so creepy!
And so that was the answer to level 2. And here, the black pieces have a small advantage. Welcome to level 3 for the ELOs 1000 to 1200. In this position, it is black to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds. In this position, it is observable that knight d2 is a nice looking move that creates a fork on the bishop and rook. The problem with this is the white pieces can take off their queen here first, trade queens, and then move their rook, and this bishop is defended and the rook isn't en prise anymore, and so the knight on d2 is not that effective. So how to bring this tactic to light? Well, first, you need to remove the defender. Another type of tactic in chess, Queen takes d3, removing the defender and deflecting the defender of this bishop. And after e takes d3, the black pieces come in with a rebuttal, knight d2. And now these two pieces are truly forked. And so this bishop is not defended anymore by a pawn, which means that it's that much more vulnerable. If a king defends the bishop, we'll take the better piece to rook on f1 to be up the exchange. And if you move your rook, well then I'll just take the bishop with check and then be a full piece up, completely winning. Welcome to level 4, ELO's 1200 to 1400. If you've made it this far, congratulations, because they've been tough so far. They've been endgame problems, opening traps, and you're dealing with a lot of range here and you're doing well. So in this position, it is white to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds. This is one of those puzzles that is particularly beautiful. In this position, it is really nice to calculate through knight c7 check, a discovered attack on this rook that really prohibits this rook taking the knight because it would be deflected off the defense of this rook and then we would be winning the exchange. So this forces the response king e7, not king f8, not king f7, because we would win a rook. So king e7, and here you have to observe and find this with calculation. Rook takes d8, forcing a trade here, and then rook takes d8, and then king takes, and finally, last but not least, knight e6, fork on the king and bishop. The king moves, and you win a full piece up. Welcome to level 5, ELO's 1400 to 1600. In this position, it is white to play and gain a small advantage. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds. This one is the problem of the day. It's the beautiful one. You play this in your life, you're gonna talk to your friends, to your chess friends about it until you die. This is one of the moves that is super beautiful to observe. In this position, it is white to play and win. And I'm just gonna go ahead with the solution. There's not many other alternatives. Your queen is being attacked and either you flight or you fight. And in this position, it requires fight. Queen takes g6. And you had to calculate through this because, okay, the pawn can't take because it's pinned to the king, but this h-pawn can take. And so what's the follow-up? Not rook h8 check, because of king h8, and if knight takes, well then this is a fork, ladies and gentlemen, it is. But then rook takes f7, and then you're dead in the water. So you want to play first instead, bishop takes f7 check, to lure and force, actually, this rook to take the bishop on f7 so that now it's on a bad square and you fake checkmate the black pieces with rook h8. Again, deflecting the king off of this f7 square, king takes, and then knight takes f7, royal fork, the king moves, and now we have won a pawn. That's why I said for a small advantage, but it's a beautiful combination and it practices your calculation and your vision 4-5 moves in. I hope you solved this. Welcome to level 6 for the ELO 1600 to 1800. In this position, I chose a study. It's a way to think different in chess, as Steve Jobs said. Think different. So in this position, it is white to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause. So here, it's important to note that we are about to queen our pawn. And so if you go rook h8 check, yes, this will queen our pawn, but at what expense? They still have 2 rooks against our queen, and this is well enough to at least draw this for the black pieces, yet alone win. So what do we do here? We could try to get our rook to move, to then threaten d8 queen, and on rook takes d7, we would have e6 with a fork here, winning at least a rook and maybe a queening pawn, right? The problem is rook b7, following our rook. It doesn't matter about the b7 square, it's just following our rook. And so if our rook takes, well then they just move their rook and they're safe, or just like rook here, sorry, and they're safe here, right? and our pawn isn't going nowhere. And if you take, then this is losing for you because I take on b8 and take up the f8 square. So then that brings a question. What is the solution to this problem? And so with our rook, we need to go to the only square where it can't be followed, and that is on e8. Rook e8, threatening to queen this pawn, attracting this rook to take the d7 pawn. It is a decoy. And now we have e6, which is the fork. Again, there's no checks here because of their own pawn. This is a fabricated problem. Every single piece is on a square for a reason. This rook cannot go here either. And so now it is a fork, and you cannot do any tricks. If the rook goes to g7, we take and we'll queen. And if the rook moves, we'll take and we'll queen. And this is completely over in this position. Welcome to level 7. Elo's 1800 to 2000. In this position, another endgame, believe it or not. It is white to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. Try to solve the fork. In this position, you want to find the #1 candidate move that is obvious from the start. Our knight is attacked twice, and it is white to play, so we move this knight on this move. And we go to the square that's the most appealing, or we calculate this first and then evaluate. And that is d6. We're threatening this bishop, we're threatening the fork with king and rook. And now you need to observe black's rebuttal to this, because black has a good move that looks like it saves a lot here. And it's important to find your opponent's resources in chess. Super, super primordial. And that is bishop d7, moving the bishop out of the emprise and taking up the f5 square. Though this leaves another weakness, which you should have found, and that is rook e7, the fork. Another fork of the king and bishop. Okay, so the king needs to move intelligently. If you calculated king f8, the problem is I take the bishop, and you can't follow suit on anything because of this beautiful knight, and this is completely winning for the white pieces. Come up with something a little bit better like king f6, so that after rook takes, king e6 attacks both our pieces and forces rook d8, and now king e7. And it looks convincing, right? It looks like black is going to win a piece back. But here you need to find the masterpiece, the final move for me, and that is knight b5. If you found this 100% of the solution, you are just attacking this rook, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's called a desperado in chess when you do this. Your piece is attacked, it's dead in the water, you attack another piece to get out of the water. And so this rook is attacked, your rook is attacked, and they cannot get rid of this rook while doing a check that is convincing. Here, a side variation. If you saw this, bonus points. If rook h4 check, now we have king g3 attacking this rook, and it's the same conundrum. If you take my rook, I take yours, and if you take my pawn, I'll just go to h8, and with a piece up, I'll be completely winning. Welcome to level 8. For the Elos 2000 to 2200, if you're below 2000 attempting this, you're courageous. Not everybody who is below 2000 will be Viking enough to stay till this point in the video. Look at the weaknesses. Look at the little fissure in the army. Cut that. In this position, it is white to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds. In this position, you had to find bishop takes e5. And why bishop takes e5? It forces a response out of black. That's right. The queen cannot take because it's defending g7. And if it takes, it's mate in 1. So the pawn must take here. And now you have the bombshell, which is the demarcation of this 2000 to 2200 puzzle. Rook takes d4, sacrificing the rook. And it looks like it gives a full rook. Rook takes. You can't play knight e7 the fork now because obviously the queen takes up. So you have to find queen takes c4. Why did we take on d5? Because taking this pawn undefends also this one. And so also opens up this weakness on the king. And so now we're not only taking c4, we are pinning the rook to the king, and this king is super weak. and we're threatening another goodie. But we're threatening this rook for now. The only way to defend this rook, you can't defend it with this knight here. The knight next to a piece cannot defend that piece in one move. It needs two moves, okay? Or two moves this way. It has a lot of options, but basically it needs two moves to defend a piece next to it. So it's the queen. The queen goes to d8, goes to d7, and here you have to find queen takes d5 check, kind of forking these two pieces, luring this queen to take on d5. This is called a decoy. And now we have knight e7 check on this king and queen. This is called a royal fork. And here we have 2 pawns. Welcome to level 9. Elo's 2200 to 2400. In this position, it is white to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause. In this position, it is key to observe that black has the majority of their weaponry, the majority of their force, 19 points, cuddled up on the queen side, on the north queen side. Which means that this king is exposed, and if you can expose it a little bit more, it's going to be extremely weak and extremely profitable for you to bet on. Okay? So here, you need to find rook takes f7, sacrificing the rook to pierce on the f file. Here you're threatening to win a queen. I mean, it's practically forced that black must take this rook with a bishop. And here you follow up with queen f3, a silent move that does everything. Why? Because of the fork, the theme of this video. Queen f3 is such a silent killer. It attacks this bishop on f7, but all the defenses to actually defend this bishop, the weakness, they're all misses. They're all moves that will let us fork. If queen d7 to defend the bishop, this opens up for king and queen royal fork with knight f6, check, winning the queen. What if queen e6 defending the bishop here? Well, here we have another fork, knight takes c7 check, forking the king and queen. And that's what I find that's so beautiful, is that here we're showing you that the fork can be really versatile. You can use the threat of the fork, not the fork itself, the threat of the fork in a variation to gain the upper hand in a position. The king can run if it wants to, but if it does, we'll just take with a lot of compensation. The best follow-up here is like bishop g8, queen f8 check, king d7, queen g7 check, king c6, and then knight e7, winning a queen. And that's the best that black will do, because at least they'll have a rook and a bishop for the queen, but this is still completely winning for the white pieces. And finally, welcome to the final level. 2500 plus puzzle. In this position, it is white to play and draw. It is another study. This one is particularly fun. You need to draw this as the white pieces because we all know, or some of us know, that knight and bishop against nothing, against no pawns on this board for black, is winning. So you need to find a way to draw this. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause. Best of luck. So here it's important to see that if you do nothing, like king b6, or if you're too slow, black will just take the pawn on g6, which is a very important pawn. It's keeping that king there. Now the king can go here. But let's say c7 now, knight f7. And here it's really hard to try to queen this because on king b7 trying to queen, not only does the bishop take up c8, we can even do king f6. King f6. No. Just knight d6. Play it safe. Knight d6 check, king here, and then knight c8. And then black is going to bring their king over and is gonna win. Or bring their king over this way so that the bishop is not intercepted off of that knight. Okay, so how do we do this? Here we have to go right in. c7 attacking this knight, knight b7, and I know what you're thinking. We cannot queen this pawn, right? If queen here, bishop takes doesn't work for the reason in the match, but knight d6, royal fork does indeed. King c6, knight takes c8. And now black wins, because they'll take this pawn next move. So here you have to under-promote, which is why it's a 2500 puzzle, under-promote to a knight. Even though black can take this. Isn't that crazy? Why? Because here at least the knight can't take this with a fork, and it's forcing the bishop to a bad square. Another decoy, so many decoys. If you messed up on the decoy puzzles in this fork puzzles, I have a video on decoys that will appear right here, hopefully if I remember. But if not, you can search it up. When bishop takes c8, it is now a draw on this board if the white pieces play perfectly. By perfect, I do not mean king c6. We need perfection. King c6 allows for knight a5 check. King c7, and now the bishop moves away and black celebrates. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for king b6, taking up a5 and c5, essentially trapping this knight. And now if the knight goes to d6, we have king c7 forking these two pieces, forcing one of them to undefend the other one. Guess which one is doing that. Or knight d8, and then we have another fork. These are forks. It's forks, you guys. It's forkings. Forkings on here. Fork with a king. I didn't even put that in the original example. Crazy. Anyways, king c7, and then these two pieces are forked. So the king took here on g6. Now we have king c7, another fork, forcing them to give up a piece. And here it is a complete draw.